Hello everyone, today we are going to see if it is possible to beat New Super Mario Bros Wii without touching Luigi. Now I know that sounds strange, so let me explain. We are going to be playing through the whole game with Luigi in a bubble, and at no point are we allowed to pop the bubble with Mario or projectiles that we throw. If at any point we do accidentally hit Luigi, then I have to exit and restart the level from the beginning or a checkpoint. Additionally, we will be trying to do this without cannons and only using them if we absolutely have to. I did have to do this on a pre-existing save, that way I would be able to exit out of levels, so I decided to ban item houses or using power-ups before entering a level to keep it fair. I also streamed all of this on Twitch over the course of 5.5 hours to ensure that this run was 100% legit. Now, with all that being said, let's begin the challenge. Starting with 1-1, we had no issues at all staying away from Luigi, especially once we got the propeller suit. Level 1-2 wasn't much harder, and we even got some 1-ups, which will be useful later on. Pretty much the same can be said about 1-3 as well. Our first real challenge comes in at 1 tower. The first issue with this level, and a lot of other towers that we will have to deal with, is that it's vertical, so we have to constantly be moving up to prevent Luigi from blocking a part of my screen. The other issue is that I quickly learned that a lot of power-ups in this game could be a problem to use. But besides all that, the boss fight was pretty easy because I had the propeller suit, and going forward, we are now on 1-4. And it wasn't too difficult, and I decided to take the ice flower but not shoot it, just so I could take an extra hit of damage later on. 1-6 was by far the easiest level in World 1 because I was able to just keep my momentum the whole time. Now onto 1 castle, which made it very apparent that every castle in this playthrough would be the hardest level to complete. During every boss fight, Luigi would randomly fly around the room, adding an extra obstacle to the fight, but after a couple tries, I was able to beat Larry and move on to World 2. Levels 2-1 and 2-2 were both very easy levels to run through, with only these spiky balls giving me any issues towards the end. 2-3 normally has you using a fire flower to navigate the dark, but I decided to not shoot any fireballs to prevent the risk of popping Luigi. 2 Tower also didn't give us too many issues, we just had to dodge the fireballs Roy was shooting while we climbed up the level. The boss fight had a couple close calls with Luigi, but I still managed to beat it first try, and 2-4 has a cool wind mechanic that we can actually use to our advantage to stay away from Luigi. 2-6 though is actually a bit difficult in some sections because we have to stay on the spinning block that moves along a rail, but it gets very close to Luigi at some points. Eventually it was doable with a propeller suit and a bit of patience, so now we are on to 2 Castle, which was actually pretty easy. It required you to pick the right path out of the 3 given, but once you know which one it is, you can just walk right through. For the boss fight, all I had to do was damage boost through the attacks to dodge Luigi, so it really wasn't that difficult, which means we are heading to World 3. 3-1 introduces us to the wintry theme of World 3, and it also introduces us to the penguin suit, which will be very useful for this world. Besides that, 3-1 was a pretty standard level that we were able to easily make our way through. 3-2 was also no issue, as it just required us to dodge all of these bullet bills, which you can see I actually used to get an extra 1-up, so that's cool. 3 Tower had this moving platform that made it really easy because we were constantly above Luigi throughout the whole level. Lemmy was also not a hard fight because we could just run across the ice and jump on him as soon as he was out of his shell. 3-4 was actually quite difficult the first time because of how the ice physics worked with all these moving platforms, but eventually we were able to complete it, and doing it with the red platforms was a breeze, honestly. 3-5 was another level with a moving block platform, however, the path that this one follows made it a lot easier to avoid Luigi. The only thing we really had to avoid were the fireballs coming from all the piranha plants. Now 3 Castle. Oh boy. Let me tell you about 3 Castle. This level was one of the worst levels in the whole game for this challenge. First of all, the castle has you riding these snake blocks throughout the whole level, which makes it difficult to avoid Luigi. And then on top of all that, after making it past all the obstacles on the snake blocks, you then have to fight Lemmy, but this time he is standing on a huge ball, making it harder to reach him. And that's not all, because throughout the whole fight he is constantly shooting bouncy balls at you, which a lot of times just send Mario a random way, which means I usually hit Luigi. And if you think that's bad, in his final phase, the ball he is standing on gets even bigger, so now you have to use one of the other bouncy balls to hit him. Seriously guys, this boss fight took me 30 minutes to beat, and the only way I was able to do it was to continuously dodge all of his attacks and only jump on him when Luigi was clear out of the way. Now, with that nightmare done, it's on to World 4, and 4-1 starts the world off in a very delightful way, with an easy water level. There really wasn't any threat of Luigi in this level as long as I just kept swimming. And the only difficult part of 4-2 was when I had to stand on these platforms while all the fish jumped at me, but besides that, this level wasn't much harder. 4 Tower had a lot of conveyor belts moving these blocks, which made it really hard to get around Luigi sometimes. I found my best solution was to just wait for a rotation of small blocks that we could use to run under Luigi, but besides that, this tower was a piece of cake. 4-4 was pretty much all underwater, so it was pretty easy as long as we avoided the bloopers that were shooting out at us. 4 Ghost House was our first ghost house of the challenge, so going in I was a bit worried. However, all I had to do was stand on this platform to hit the P switch and the rest was simple enough. And 4-5 was another level I could just run through like normal, so now we were on the castle. Getting to the boss fight in this castle was very long, but luckily it wasn't too bad. We just had to work our way around the spiky skewers coming out of all the walls. Now at first, I thought the water would make the Wendy fight harder, but after way too many tries to count, I got used to the timing and the fight actually became pretty easy. 4 Airship is the first airship of the challenge, and it actually wasn't too bad either. The only part that actually gave me trouble was fighting Bowser Jr., and that's just because after I killed him, I somehow managed to pop Luigi's bubble, so I had to do the whole level over again. But anyway, with that over, it's now time for World 5. 5-1 starts us off with a pretty easy level that just requires a few precise jumps to get through, and I decided to do 5-3 because 5-2 was way too difficult to navigate between all the wigglers and the caves and Luigi and the bats, and I'm sure you could imagine. Now, with that being said, 5-3 still wasn't super easy, but it gave us a ton of open room to make our way through without any major issues. 5 Tower was actually one of the easiest tower levels in the game, and we were able to get through it on our first try also. 5-4 wasn't too difficult, we just had to make sure not to throw any turtle shells or any of our ice balls towards Luigi. And 5 Ghost House also didn't cause any issues for us because we were able to just run through it very quickly. The only concern was this room where I actually got cornered by 2 Boos and Luigi. 5-5 had us riding on Jumbo Rays, and yes, that's their actual name, I did look it up. It had us riding on these Jumbo Rays to get through the level, with the only challenge just being a couple bullet bills, so overall this one was pretty easy. Throughout 5 Castle, we had to climb on moving fences while dodging Iggy's fireballs, but besides that, the level wasn't too difficult to get through, and once I realized I could just wall jump here, it made the boss fight very easy as well. Now onto World 6, which starts us in 6-1 with more of these annoying platforms, except this time we have spiky balls getting dropped on us and bullet bills flying at us. After dying a couple times because of the slow movement on these platforms, I was able to complete the level and get some 1-ups from all the leftover bullet bills. 6-3 was a pretty easy level, considering we could just use this rising water mechanic to avoid Luigi. 6 Tower, on the other hand, was awful. There's this big spiky pillar that rises throughout the whole level that I have to dodge by going into the side rooms. The problem with going into the side rooms is that Luigi would normally corner us and I would end up popping his bubble. Luckily, once I made it through, the boss fight for this tower caused almost no issues, so we were able to move on to 6-5. This level caused almost no issues besides Mrs. Puff here trying to kill me as I entered the pipe. Now 6-6 was another one of the worst levels of the challenge. The whole level has you riding on this slow-moving boat, which is already difficult with Luigi following you, but then eventually you have to dodge bats flying at you and fireballs getting shot at you. After many attempts, I finally found this propeller block and just flew above most of the level, which made it a lot more manageable. 6 Castle was actually really easy, with the only real obstacle being the falling spiky balls. The boss fight was also nothing to worry about, we just had to wait for the right timing. 6 Airship was another easy airship to run through, but the boss fight against Bowser Jr. was a bumper car style fight, I guess you could say, and I almost hit Luigi like 4 different times. Somehow, we were able to complete the fight first try with no bubble pops, so now we are in World 7. 7-1 had us in the sky jumping across a bunch of moving blocks and pipes, but besides a couple close calls, it wasn't hard to get through. 7-2 had me worried because we had to swim through these water bubbles, but it actually turned out to be very easy. 7-3 also wasn't too difficult, we just had to ride this platform along a rail, and eventually I just ran across the bottom to dodge all the fuzzies, cause why not? I was actually very surprised with how easy 7 Tower was too. As long as we kept moving this platform back and forth, we were able to move fast enough to stay away from Luigi and complete this level on the first try. 7 Ghost House was a really quick level because all we had to do was dodge a couple boos and pick the right door to escape. And then 7-4 happened. Let me tell you, 7-4 was a nightmare. At first, it seemed like a very simple level with some moving platforms, but it turned out to be so difficult, taking me almost 20 minutes because of crap like this, and this, and this, and more would just keep happening. It was seriously some of the worst luck I have ever had, but eventually, we beat it and were able to move on. Thankfully, 7-5 was a refreshing change of pace after what we just did. The only thing we had to worry about in this level was the lack of sight, but still, the level was easy to run through. Now, 7 Castle had so many spiky skewers that were trying to kill me, but thankfully, once we got past that, the boss fight was very easy, so we were quickly able to move on to World 8. 8-1 played almost exactly how it would normally be played, and we just had to use this POW block as protection from all the falling rocks. 8-2 was another quick level, so as of right now, I was starting to feel pretty good about World 8. And with that being said, 8-3 actually also gave us no issues, and I was starting to get confused. And then 8 Tower. This level was so annoying. Between how these platforms were moving and with how close Luigi was getting, I felt like I couldn't do anything. Thankfully, Kamek wasn't that hard to fight as long as we stayed up top, and now we were past it and on to 8-4. All we had to do here was swim through this dark cave and avoid all the fish, so it was nothing we couldn't handle. 8-5 was definitely a bit harder than 8-4 because we had to manage this moving platform while also avoiding all these bomb-bombs falling from the sky. And later in the level we had to dodge all these birds, but I was able to just barely make it to the end of the level and move on. 8-6 had us running away from rising lava, which wasn't really a problem considering we have a propeller suit and we had to move fast anyway to stay away from Luigi. And now, with all the previous levels beaten, we were finally on the last airship where we fight Bowser Jr. again. Besides all of these cannonballs being shot at us and trying to kill us, this level wasn't too hard to get through. Unfortunately, we got hit with some terrible luck on the Bowser Jr. fight, and it took me a couple of tries, but once we got him to sit in the corner, it was really easy. And this is it, guys. We have just one level standing in the way of us beating the game without touching Luigi once. I'm so excited, so let's get right into it. 8 Castle had us running through a lava-filled level, and at one point we had to slowly ride these platforms down while avoiding the lava below us. Luckily, once we got around Luigi, he stayed at the top of the screen here, so we could take as much time as we needed. The Bowser final boss fight had me worried, but as we ran under him and hit the button, I realized how close we were to completing this challenge, and I couldn't wait. I made sure to keep Luigi on the left side of the screen by Bowser to ensure that we wouldn't risk running into him during the second phase of the fight. And after perfectly dodging all of Bowser's fireballs and getting this propeller suit, we were able to fly our way to the end, push the button to defeat Bowser, and finally rescue Princess Peach. And now, with full confidence, I can say it is possible to beat New Super Mario Bros. Wii without touching Luigi. I am very happy that I was able to give this challenge a try, and it was very rewarding to make it through the whole game. This video took me a lot of time to make, so if you did enjoy it, please consider supporting the channel with a like or a subscribe, as I would greatly appreciate it. And with all that being said, we can sit back and watch as Mario and Peach fly away happily ever after.